Have you ever wondered why some people pray and receive miracles while others pray the same prayers and nothing happens? Why does one person have faith and their life transforms, while another person has just as much faith, prays just as sincerely, believes just as deeply, and yet remains stuck in the same circumstances year after year? What makes the difference? Is God playing favorites? Are some people just luckier than others? Are miracles random acts of divine whim that we can only hope for but never count on? My friend, I'm going to share something with you today that changed my life forever and has changed the lives of thousands upon thousands of people I've counseled over more than 40 years of study and practice. There is an ancient law, older than any religion, older than any scripture, older than human civilization itself, that operates in your life whether you know about it or not. This law is working right now, at this very moment, creating your experiences, shaping your circumstances, manifesting your reality. This law doesn't care about your past. It doesn't care about your mistakes or your failures or how many times you've tried and fallen short. It doesn't judge your worthiness or measure your deservingness. It only responds to one thing, just one thing, and when you understand what that one thing is, everything changes. Once you understand how to work with this law consciously, deliberately, scientifically, faith stops being a desperate hope and becomes a creative force that produces actual, tangible, measurable results in your life. Stay with me for the next hour and 20 minutes, because what I'm about to reveal will change everything you thought you knew about prayer, about faith, and about miracles. Maybe you're watching this because you've been praying for something for months, or even years, and nothing's changed. The situation you've been praying about is still exactly the same, or perhaps it's even gotten worse. Maybe you have faith, you genuinely believe in God or a higher power, you're not an atheist or a skeptic, you truly believe, but you're frustrated, maybe even angry, because you see others receiving miracles, you hear testimonies of prayers being answered, you watch other people's lives transform, while you're still sitting here waiting, wondering when it's going to be your turn. Maybe you've read all the spiritual books, all the self-help books, all the prayer books. You've attended all the services, all the seminars, all the workshops. You've said all the affirmations, all the positive statements, all the declarations. You've tried visualization. You've tried meditation. You've tried everything everyone told you to try. But there's still this painful gap between what you believe should be happening and what you're actually experiencing in your real life. Or perhaps you're successful in some areas. Maybe your career is going well, or your relationships are good, but you're completely stuck in other areas, and you can't figure out why the same faith that worked there doesn't seem to work here. Why does faith work for your finances but not your health? Why does it work for your career but not your relationships? What's the difference? You might even be carrying guilt around this, thinking maybe you don't have enough faith, maybe you're not praying hard enough, maybe you're not spiritual enough, maybe you're not pure enough, maybe God is punishing you for something you did or didn't do. My friend, I want to free you from all of that confusion, all of that guilt, all of that frustration today. You're about to discover that none of those things are true. For over 40 years I've dedicated my life to studying the laws of mind and spirit, not just reading about them in dusty old books, though I've studied all the ancient texts, all the mystical teachings, all the religious scriptures from every tradition, but more importantly, I've studied these laws in thousands upon thousands of real-life cases, real people with real problems facing real circumstances. I've worked personally with people from every background you can imagine, every religion, every culture, every economic level, every circumstance. I've counseled the wealthy and the poor, the educated and the uneducated, the religious and the skeptical, the young and the old. And I've watched, documented, and verified the same law produce the same results over and over and over again when it's properly understood and correctly applied. This isn't wishful thinking. This isn't positive thinking. This isn't religious doctrine that you have to accept on blind faith. This is practical psychology meets spiritual truth. This is science meets spirit. This is ancient wisdom validated by modern experience. By the end of this teaching, you're going to understand why some prayers work and others don't. You'll know the difference between hoping and creating, between wishing and commanding, between religious faith and scientific faith. You'll see that miracles aren't random acts of divine favoritism, but natural results of working with a law that's always present, always available, always responding to you. You're going to discover that faith without understanding is like electricity without wiring, powerful but useless. That belief without proper direction is like a ship without a rudder, moving but going nowhere. And that the reason most people's prayers fail isn't because God isn't listening, but because they're broadcasting on the wrong frequency. What makes this teaching different is that I'm not going to tell you to have more faith. I'm going to show you how to direct the faith you already have through the ancient law that makes faith creative. I'm going to give you the missing piece that turns belief into manifestation, prayer into power, and hope into certainty. I know what it feels like to pray with all your heart and hear only silence. I know the loneliness of believing while everyone around you doubts. I know the exhaustion of trying harder and harder spiritually while your circumstances stay the same. But I also know the joy of watching this law work, the wonder of seeing thoughts become things, the peace that comes from understanding that you're not at the mercy of random chance but working with an intelligent, responsive, absolutely reliable law of mind and spirit. So let me begin by telling you some stories. Because truth is always best understood through human experience. These aren't fairy tales. These are real people who discovered this ancient law and watched their lives transform. Let me tell you about a sailor during the Second World War, during one of the darkest periods of human history. This man, I'll call him James, was on a naval transport ship in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, thousands of miles from any land, when the worst storm he'd ever seen in his life hit without warning. Within minutes, what had been relatively calm seas became a nightmare of 50-foot waves and howling winds. The ship was old, poorly maintained, patched together with wartime repairs. The equipment was failing. Water was pouring into the lower decks faster than the pumps could handle it. The ship was listing dangerously to one side. Men were being thrown across the deck. Equipment was breaking loose. And all around James, his fellow sailors were in absolute panic. Grown men, trained military men, were crying. Some were vomiting from fear and seasickness. Others were screaming, calling out to God, begging for rescue, convinced with absolute certainty that they were all going to die in that cold, dark ocean, thousands of miles from home, thousands of miles from anyone who loved them. But James, this one sailor, in the middle of all that chaos, in the middle of all that terror, he did something completely different from everyone else. He had learned something about the law of mind that the others didn't know, something he'd studied before the war, something that had seemed interesting but theoretical until this moment when his life literally depended on it. While chaos erupted all around him, while men screamed and the ship groaned like a dying beast, and the waves crashed over the deck with the force of collapsing buildings, James found a relatively quiet corner. He wedged himself between two pieces of equipment so he wouldn't be thrown around. He closed his eyes, and he began to do something that would ultimately save his life, and that I want you to understand deeply because it demonstrates the ancient law perfectly. He didn't beg God to rescue him. He didn't plead or bargain or make promises about what he'd do if only God would save him. He didn't cry out in desperation like his fellow sailors. Instead, and this is crucial, he closed his eyes and began to feel, with all the intensity he could possibly muster, with every ounce of concentration he had, the feeling of already being safe. Not the hope of being safe in the future, not the wish that he would be safe, but the feeling of safety as a present reality. He removed his attention completely from the storm, from the danger, from the fear, and he placed it entirely on the image and feeling of being home. He saw himself, in his mind's eye, standing on solid ground. He saw his house. He saw his front door. He walked through that door in his imagination. He heard, with his inner ear, the voices of his wife and children welcoming him home, saying, "Daddy, you're back. You're home. We missed you so much." He felt their arms around him. He felt his wife's cheek against his. He touched the walls of his house in his imagination, feeling the texture of the wallpaper, the solidness of the structure. He smelled his wife's cooking, that familiar scent of home that he'd dreamed about for months at sea. He felt the relief washing over him, the peace flooding through him, the joy of being home safe with his family around him. And he held that feeling, that mental image, that inner reality, with complete and total conviction for as long as he possibly could maintain it, blocking out the screams, blocking out the crashing waves, blocking out everything except the reality of his safety that he was creating in his mind. Now here's what's truly remarkable about this story, and I want you to really understand this because it's the key to everything. While James was doing this inner work, while he was living in this mental reality of safety and home, the storm was still raging in the outer world. The ship was still sinking. The waves were still crashing. Men were still screaming. Nothing had changed one bit in the external circumstances. If you had looked at James with your physical eyes, you would have seen a man on a sinking ship in the middle of a deadly storm. But if you could have seen into his consciousness, into his inner world, you would have seen something completely different. You would have seen a man who was already home, already safe, already at peace. Something profound had changed in his inner world, even though nothing had changed yet in his outer world. He had impressed upon his subconscious mind, with feeling and conviction, with every ounce of faith he possessed, the reality of his safety, the certainty of his homecoming. He had planted a seed in the fertile soil of his deeper mind, and that seed, according to the ancient law, had to grow. It had no choice, the law demands it. 3 hours later, when all hope seemed completely lost, when even the captain had given the order to abandon ship, when the lifeboats were being prepared and men were saying their final prayers, a rescue ship appeared on the horizon. Now you have to understand, the odds of this were astronomical. That rescue ship had no reason to be in that exact location. It was off its normal route. It had changed course hours earlier due to what the captain later called a strange feeling, an intuition, a hunch. It arrived at exactly the right place at exactly the right moment, within minutes of when it would have been too late, and pulled James and his entire crew to safety. When they were on the rescue ship, wrapped in blankets, drinking hot coffee, still trembling from the experience, James's fellow sailors asked him how he had stayed so calm during the storm. They said, "James, we were all losing our minds with fear, but you looked peaceful. How did you do that? How did you have such certainty that we'd survive when everything looked hopeless?" And James told them something that confused most of them, but that I want you to understand with crystal clarity. He said, simply, "I was already home in my mind. I wasn't on that sinking ship in my consciousness. I was home with my family. I was safe. I felt it. I lived it. And so it had to become true in my outer experience." You see, my friend, James understood something profoundly important, something that most people never learn in their entire lives. He understood that the subconscious mind, that deeper mind within you that's connected to infinite intelligence and infinite power, doesn't distinguish between a real experience happening in the outer world and a vividly imagined experience happening in your inner world with intense feeling. To your subconscious, there is no difference between what you intensely imagine with emotion and what you physically experience. None. When you impress an image upon your subconscious with emotion and conviction, when you feel it with intensity, when you make it real in your consciousness, your subconscious accepts it as real, as actual, as current reality, and it begins immediately to work on bringing that inner reality into manifestation in your outer world. It mobilizes all of its intelligence, all of its power, all of its connection to infinite mind to make the inner and the outer match, because that's what the law demands. The outer must always conform to the inner. The visible must always match the invisible. The circumstance must always reflect the consciousness. This is the ancient law that I'm teaching you today. This is the law that every great spiritual teacher has taught throughout history, though they taught it in different words, different symbols, different parables. As within, so without. As in consciousness, so in experience. As you believe in your heart, so it is done unto you. As you sow in mind, so shall you reap in manifestation. What you feel as real in your consciousness must eventually, inevitably, absolutely become real in your physical experience. It's not magic. It's not wishful thinking. It's not even religious miracle in the traditional sense. It's law. It's the way the universe works. It's the way your mind works. It's the way consciousness creates reality. And once you understand this law, once you learn to work with it consciously and deliberately, your whole life changes. Everything changes. Prayer changes from begging to claiming. Faith changes from hoping to knowing. Life changes from happening to you to being created by you. Now let me share another story with you, one that demonstrates this law in an even more dramatic and deeply moving way. A woman came to see me many years ago in Los Angeles, and I will never ever forget the pain I saw in her eyes that day. She was a mother, a devoted mother, and her son, a beautiful boy of just 12 years old, had been diagnosed with what the doctors at that time called an incurable illness. They had done every test known to medical science. They had tried every treatment available. They had consulted specialist after specialist. And finally, after months of tests and treatments and consultations, they called her into an office, sat her down, and told her with clinical detachment, that there was nothing more they could do. They gave her no hope. They used phrases like, "You should prepare yourself," and "make him comfortable," and "spend what time you have left." They suggested, in the kindest way they knew how, that she should begin preparing for her son's death. This mother, I'll never forget this, she came to my office and she could barely walk. The grief was so heavy on her that it was like a physical weight crushing her down. She fell into the chair across from my desk, and tears were streaming down her face, and she looked at me with eyes full of desperation and confusion and anger, and she said, "Dr. Murphy, I don't understand. I've prayed every single day since the diagnosis. Every single morning and every single night I get on my knees and I pray. I have faith in God. I believe He can heal my son. I know He has the power. I've read the Bible stories about Jesus healing the sick. I believe in miracles. I believe God can do anything, but nothing is happening. My son is getting worse, not better. The doctors say there's no hope. What am I doing wrong? Am I not praying hard enough? Am I not faithful enough? Does God not hear me? Is He punishing me for something? Please, tell me what I'm doing wrong, because I'm losing my son and I don't know what else to do." I looked at this dear, heartbroken woman, and I felt such compassion for her, such love for her sincere faith and her desperate situation. And I said something that shocked her at first, something that seemed almost cruel in the moment, but that would ultimately save her son's life. I said, "You're not doing anything wrong with your faith. You have tremendous faith. I can see it. I can feel it. Your faith is powerful and real, but you're doing everything wrong with your understanding. You don't understand how faith works. You don't understand the law that makes faith creative. You're using your faith, but you're using it in the wrong direction." She looked confused, almost offended. She said, "What do you mean? I pray with all my heart. How can I be doing it wrong?" So I leaned forward and I said, "Tell me exactly how you pray. Tell me the words you use. Tell me what you're thinking and feeling when you pray." She took a breath and said, "Every morning when I wake up and every night before I go to sleep, I get on my knees beside my bed and I pray with everything in me. I say, 'Please God, please heal my son. Please make him well. Please take away this terrible disease. Please don't let him die. Please God, I'm begging you. I'm pleading with you. Please give me my son back healthy. Please, please, please.' Sometimes I pray for an hour or more, just repeating these words, hoping that if I pray long enough, if I pray hard enough, if I'm sincere enough, God will finally hear me and answer." I stopped her there, gently, and I said, "Do you see what you're doing? Do you understand what you're actually telling your subconscious mind with those prayers?" She shook her head, confused. I said, "Every single time you pray that prayer, every single time you say, 'Please heal my son,' you're telling your subconscious mind, and you're telling the universe, and you're telling God that your son is sick. You're affirming the problem, not the solution. You're praying from a state of fear and lack and sickness, and your subconscious mind and the infinite intelligence are accepting that fear and lack and sickness as your reality, as your truth, and they're maintaining it. You're reinforcing the very thing you don't want." She looked at me with tears still streaming down her face, and she said, "But what else can I possibly do? How else can I pray? My son is sick. That's the truth. That's the reality. How can I pretend he's not sick when I can see him lying in that hospital bed?" I said, and I want you to really hear this because it's the key to everything. I said, "You're not going to pretend anything. You're going to do something much more powerful. You're going to create a new reality in your consciousness first, and then you're going to trust the ancient law to manifest that inner reality into outer experience. Let me teach you a different way to pray, a way that works with the law instead of against it." I said, "Here's what I want you to do, and I want you to do this faithfully, religiously, without missing a single day, no matter what the doctors say, no matter what your eyes see, no matter what anyone tells you. Instead of begging God to heal your son, which affirms that he's sick, I want you to see your son as already healed. Twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening, I want you to sit quietly in a comfortable chair, close your eyes, take a few deep breaths to relax, and then for 15 minutes, no less than 15 minutes, I want you to picture your son healthy, active, laughing, playing with his friends. See him in your mind's eye running. See him jumping. See him full of energy and life. Hear his laughter. Listen to him talking animatedly about his day. Watch him eating a good meal with appetite and joy and the healthy hunger of a growing boy. See him playing sports or riding his bike or doing whatever activities he loves. Make it as vivid and real as you possibly can. Use all your senses. And most importantly, this is crucial. Feel the feeling you would have if he were completely well right now. Feel the relief washing over you. Feel the gratitude filling your heart. Feel the joy bubbling up inside you. Feel the peace of knowing he's healthy. Feel what it would feel like if your prayer were already answered, if the miracle had already happened, if he were already completely healed. Do this with all the feeling and conviction you can possibly muster. Make it so real in your mind that you can almost touch it, almost smell it, almost taste it. Live in that reality for 15 full minutes. And do this faithfully every single morning and every single evening, no matter what. Don't miss a day. Don't skip a session. This is your most important work. This is your prayer. This is how you work with the law. She looked at me with doubt written all over her face. She said, "But Dr. Murphy, he's still sick. Right now, at this very moment, he's lying in a hospital bed, barely able to move. How can I feel grateful when I look at him and see him suffering? How can I imagine him healthy when the reality is that he's dying? This seems like denial. This seems like I'm lying to myself." I leaned forward and I looked into her eyes and I said, "And I want you to hear this too," I said. "That's exactly the point. That's exactly what faith is. You must be faithful to the invisible reality, to the truth in consciousness, before it becomes visible in manifestation. You must assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled before you see it fulfilled in the outer world. This is how the law works. Your outer world, everything you can see and touch and measure, will always, always, always reflect your inner world, your consciousness, what you truly believe and feel. But your inner world must change first. The change must happen in consciousness before it can happen in circumstance. You can't wait for him to get better before you feel grateful. You must feel grateful now, and then he will get better. That's the law. That's how it works. It seems backwards to the logical mind, but it's absolutely true. I've seen it work thousands of times. She sat there for a long moment, and I could see her struggling between her logical mind that said this is impossible, and her desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, there was a way. Finally, she took a deep breath and said, "I'll try." I said, and I said it with firmness, "Don't try. Do it." Trying implies doubt. Trying implies you're not sure it will work. I want you to do it with conviction, with certainty, with faith. Believe that it's working even when you see no evidence yet. Trust the law. Have faith not in your ability to make something happen, but in the law's ability to respond to your consciousness. And she nodded, and she left my office that day with something she hadn't had when she walked in, a tiny seed of hope, a possibility, a method. This mother went home and did exactly what I instructed her to do, and I want you to understand, it wasn't easy for her. It was perhaps the hardest thing she'd ever done in her life. Every single morning, she would wake up early before anyone else in the house, before her husband, before her other children. She would sit in a quiet room, close her eyes, and for 15 minutes, while her son lay in a hospital bed miles away, she would see him healthy in her mind. She would imagine him coming home from the hospital. She would hear the doctor saying, "I don't understand it, but every test is showing improvement. The disease is in remission. He's recovering." She would imagine herself hugging her son, feeling his strong, healthy body in her arms, feeling him hug her back with energy and strength. She would imagine him laughing, playing, living. She would cry tears of joy in her imagination, thanking God for the healing that existed in her mind but not yet in the visible world. And every evening before bed, after visiting her son in the hospital, after seeing him weak and sick and barely responsive, after having her heart broken by the reality of his condition, she would come home, sit down, close her eyes, and do it again. 15 minutes of living in the consciousness of his health. 15 minutes of feeling it done. 15 minutes of impressing upon her subconscious mind the image and feeling of her son whole, well, and healthy. Day after day, week after week, she continued this mental work, this spiritual work, this work of faith. Now I want you to understand something crucial. For 3 full months, nothing changed in the outer world. Nothing. Her son's condition stayed the same. Some days it seemed worse. The doctors saw no improvement. The medical tests showed no change. Friends and family, with the best intentions, began to tell her gently that she needed to accept reality, to prepare herself, to face the truth. Some people thought she was in denial, that she was losing touch with reality. But she knew something they didn't know. She understood something about the law that they had never been taught. She knew that she had planted a seed in her subconscious mind. She knew that seed was growing beneath the surface, out of sight, working through laws that couldn't be measured by medical instruments. She trusted the ancient law. She remained faithful to her vision of health even when everyone around her was seeing sickness. She continued her practice without fail, without wavering, with absolute faith, not because she felt strong, but because she had decided to trust the law no matter what. Then, in the 4th month, something began to shift. Her son's symptoms, which had been stable or worsening, started to improve. Slowly at first, so slowly that the doctors said it might be coincidence or a temporary fluctuation. But then the improvement continued. His strength began to return. His appetite came back. His color improved. His energy increased. The doctors were puzzled. They ran new tests, and the new tests showed results that contradicted the previous tests. They consulted with each other, showed each other the results, scratched their heads, and used medical terminology that essentially meant, "We don't know what's happening, but something is definitely changing." Within 6 months from the day she started her mental practice, her son had completely recovered, not partially, not improved, completely recovered. The illness that was supposed to be incurable had vanished as mysteriously as it had appeared. The doctors had no explanation. They called it spontaneous remission, which is the term medical science uses when they don't actually know why someone got better. They called it a medical miracle. They documented it in their files as an unusual case. But this mother knew better. She came back to see me, and this time when she walked into my office, everything about her was different. The grief was gone. The desperation was gone. The fear was gone. In their place was peace, joy, gratitude, and a deep understanding. She sat down with tears streaming down her face again, but this time they were tears of profound gratitude and wonder. And she said something I'll never forget. She said, "Dr. Murphy, I finally understand what Jesus meant when he said, 'Whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours, not will receive in the future.' Have received, already, present tense, done." The receiving has to happen first in consciousness, in the invisible realm of mind and spirit, before it can happen in manifestation, in the visible realm of physical reality. I had to receive my son's healing in my mind, in my heart, in my consciousness, before I could receive it in my experience, and she was exactly right. She had understood the ancient law perfectly. You see, my friend, this dear mother didn't create the healing with her thoughts, as some people mistakenly believe. She didn't manufacture a miracle through positive thinking or mental effort or sheer willpower. What she did was far more profound and far more aligned with spiritual truth. She aligned her consciousness with a reality that already existed in the infinite mind of God, in the realm of all possibilities, in the invisible realm where all things exist in potential form before they manifest in physical form. Her son's health, his wholeness, his perfection already existed there, in that realm of infinite possibility, but it couldn't manifest into her physical experience until she aligned her consciousness with it. The law required her consciousness to change first. And when her consciousness changed from one of sickness to one of health, when she stopped affirming and reinforcing the disease and started affirming and accepting the healing, the ancient law had no choice but to respond. It had to manifest what she was holding in consciousness. It had to make her outer experience match her inner conviction. This is how the law works. This is why Jesus taught, "Pray believing you have already received." This is why the mystics teach live from the end. This is why I'm teaching you to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. The law doesn't respond to your hopes about the future. It responds to your acceptance in the present. What you accept as true now, what you feel is real now, what you claim as yours now in consciousness, the law must produce in manifestation. Let me give you one more story, and this one is about a businessman. He came to me after losing everything he had built over 20 years. His company had failed. His savings were gone. He was facing bankruptcy. His reputation was ruined. He was broken, humiliated, and filled with shame. He sat in my office and said, "Dr. Murphy, I've lost my faith. I don't believe anymore." I said to him, "You haven't lost your faith. You've simply placed your faith in the wrong thing." He looked confused, so I explained. I said, "Right now, you have tremendous faith. You have faith that you're a failure. You have faith that you're ruined. You have faith that you'll never recover. You wake up every morning with complete conviction that your situation is hopeless. That's faith. It's just faith directed at the negative instead of the positive. Your problem isn't lack of faith. Your problem is misdirected faith." He sat back in his chair, and I could see something shift in his understanding. He said, "So what do I do?" I said, "You redirect that same powerful faith toward what you want instead of what you fear. You have the capacity for faith. Now you're going to use it constructively. Here's what I want you to do. Every morning when you wake up and every evening before you sleep, I want you to sit quietly for 10 minutes, close your eyes and imagine yourself in your new successful business. Don't imagine how you'll get there. Don't worry about the means. Just see yourself there. See yourself in a nice office. Hear people congratulating you. Feel the satisfaction of financial security. See your bank statements showing prosperity. Touch the desk in your new office. Smell success. Make it so real in your imagination that you can feel the emotion of it. Feel grateful, feel accomplished, feel secure, and do this every single day without fail." He said, "But I'm bankrupt. How can I imagine success when I'm sleeping on my brother's couch?" I said, "That's exactly when you must imagine it. When your current reality is the opposite of what you desire, that's when your mental work matters most. Your outer world is just a reflection of your inner world, but the inner must change first. Be faithful to your vision, not to your current circumstances." He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. He said, "I'll do it." And he did. Every morning and every evening, this man practiced seeing himself successful. At first it was difficult. His mind would wander to his problems. Doubt would creep in. Fear would try to take over. But he persisted. He remained faithful to his mental image. For weeks, nothing changed in his outer world. He was still broke. He was still unemployed. He was still facing legal problems from the bankruptcy. But something was changing inside him. He began to feel different. He began to carry himself with more confidence. He began to see opportunities he hadn't noticed before. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, an old colleague called him. They had lunch. The colleague mentioned an opportunity. That opportunity led to an introduction to an investor. That investor saw potential in a new idea the man had. Within 6 months, this man who had been sleeping on his brother's couch was running a new company. Within 2 years, that company was more successful than his original business had ever been. When he came back to thank me, he said something I'll never forget. He said, "Dr. Murphy, I thought I had lost everything, but I realize now that I only lost the outer things. What I had to lose, and then reclaim, was my consciousness. I had to rebuild myself in my mind before I could rebuild myself in the world." And he was absolutely right. You see, my friend, this man learned that the ancient law is completely impartial. It doesn't judge whether you're using it positively or negatively. It simply responds to whatever you accept as true in your consciousness. He had been accepting failure, and the law gave him more failure. When he started accepting success in his mind, the law gave him success in his life. The outer world always follows the inner world. Always. Without exception. Now let me share something personal with you, because I want you to know that I'm not just teaching theory here. I've lived this. When I was a young man, before I understood these principles, I struggled financially. I was working hard, trying my best, but money was always a problem. I would pray for prosperity, but nothing seemed to change. I was frustrated, confused, and honestly starting to doubt whether prayer worked at all. Then one day I came across an ancient teaching that changed my life forever. It was the principle that consciousness is the only reality, and that everything in your outer world is just a reflection of your inner consciousness. I realized that I had been praying with my words, but believing in lack with my feelings. I would say I want prosperity, but I would feel poor. I would affirm abundance, but I would worry about bills. My words went one direction and my consciousness went another. And of course my consciousness won because the subconscious only responds to what you really believe, not what you say. So I decided to experiment. I decided to test this law scientifically. Every day, twice a day, I would sit quietly and imagine myself having more than enough money. I would see myself paying bills easily. I would feel the relief of financial security. I would imagine helping others with money because I had plenty. At first nothing happened. But I persisted. I had faith not because I was particularly spiritual, but because the principle made logical sense to me. If my outer world reflected my inner world, then changing my inner world should change my outer world. It was like a mathematical equation. Within 3 weeks, something unexpected happened. An opportunity came that led to extra income. That was the first evidence. Then more opportunities came. Within 3 months, my financial situation had completely transformed. I wasn't rich, but I had moved from lack to sufficiency, from worry to peace, and I knew in that moment that I had discovered a law, not a belief system, but an actual law as reliable as the law of gravity. That experience set me on a path of study and experimentation that has lasted my entire life. I've tested this law thousands of times in my own life and watched it work thousands of times in the lives of people I've counseled. And I can tell you with absolute certainty, based on decades of observation and practice, that this ancient law never fails. It cannot fail. It's how the universe works. It's how your mind works. It's how consciousness creates reality. Now let me make this even simpler with a little parable. Imagine a gardener who wants to grow tomatoes. Does he stand over the soil and beg, "Please, ground, please give me tomatoes. I've been good. I deserve tomatoes. Why won't you give me tomatoes?" Of course not. That would be absurd. What does he do? He plants tomato seeds, waters them, gives them sunlight, and trusts the law of growth to produce tomatoes. The law doesn't care about his worries or his worthiness. It doesn't care about his past or his mistakes. It responds to one thing only, the seed he plants. If he plants tomato seeds and follows the natural process, he gets tomatoes. If he plants weed seeds, he gets weeds. The law is impartial. It grows whatever seed is planted. Your mind works exactly the same way. You plant seeds, which are thoughts, mental images, and feelings, in your subconscious mind, which is like fertile soil. And the law of mind produces results that match those seeds. If you plant worry seeds, mental images of fear and lack, you harvest circumstances that match worry and lack. If you plant prosperity seeds, mental images of abundance and success, you harvest circumstances that match abundance and success. The law doesn't discriminate. It doesn't play favorites. It doesn't reward the righteous and punish the wicked. It simply grows whatever seeds you plant. And here's the key. Most people are planting negative seeds all day long without realizing it. They imagine the worst. They rehearse their fears. They replay their failures. They see themselves as victims. And then they wonder why their life keeps producing the same negative results. They're using the law perfectly. They're just using it against themselves. This is the ancient law in its simplest form. As you sow in consciousness, so shall you reap in experience. The law is absolutely impersonal, absolutely reliable, absolutely available to everyone. The question isn't whether the law will work. The question is, what are you planting? What seeds are you putting into your subconscious mind every day? Now, before I go further, I want to share one more story, and this one might be the most important of all. A person once came to me, a person who had been praying faithfully for something for over a year. They said, "Dr. Murphy, I don't understand. I pray every single day. I have faith. I believe God can do this, but nothing happens. What's wrong?" So I asked them, "Tell me exactly how you pray." They said, "I pray with all my heart. I get on my knees. I ask God, please, please, make this happen. I pray for an hour sometimes. I beg. I plead. I tell God how much I need this and how much I believe. But nothing changes. Do you see the problem?" I asked them. They shook their head. I said, "You're praying with words of faith but feelings of doubt. You say you believe but you feel desperate. You say you trust God but you're begging, which means you think God needs to be convinced. You're repeating the same prayer over and over, which demonstrates that you don't really believe one prayer is enough. Your words say one thing, but your consciousness says another, and it's your consciousness that creates, not your words. They looked shocked. They said, "But I do believe. I do have faith." I said, "You believe with your conscious mind, but your subconscious doesn't accept it. Let me ask you something. After you pray, how do you feel?" They thought for a moment and said, "Honestly, I feel anxious. I worry whether it will happen. I look for signs, and when I don't see them, I get discouraged and pray harder." I nodded. I said, "That's the problem. Real faith feels like certainty, not anxiety. Real faith feels like relief, not desperation. Real faith prays once with conviction, not 1,000 times with doubt. Let me teach you how to pray effectively." I said, "Tonight, before you sleep, I want you to pray differently. Instead of begging God for what you want, I want you to thank God for what you want as if you already have it. See it done. Feel it done. Accept it as already accomplished in the invisible realm of mind, and trust the law to bring it into the visible realm of manifestation. Pray for just 2 minutes, but pray with absolute conviction. Then let it go. Don't keep praying the same prayer. Don't keep checking to see if it's working. Just trust. The seed is planted. Now let the law produce the harvest." They looked uncertain but agreed to try. 3 days later they called me, crying tears of joy. The thing they had been praying for over a year with no results, had suddenly manifested within 72 hours of praying correctly just once. What changed? Not God, not the universe, not their circumstances. What changed was their consciousness. They stopped praying from need and started praying from acceptance. They stopped affirming the lack and started affirming the fulfillment. They stopped demonstrating doubt with repetition and started demonstrating faith with conviction. And the ancient law responded instantly. You see, my friend, this is why Jesus taught, when you pray, go into your closet, close the door, and pray in secret. And when you pray, believe that you have received, and you will receive. He wasn't giving arbitrary religious rules. He was teaching you the scientific use of the law of mind. Pray in secret means pray in consciousness, in the quiet inner world where creation happens. Believe you have received means assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and you will receive means the law must manifest what you accept as true in consciousness. This is why miracles seem random to most people. They pray sometimes with real feeling, accidentally, and it works. They pray other times without feeling, unconsciously, and it doesn't work. They think God is being arbitrary or playing favorites. But God, the infinite intelligence, the creative power, is not arbitrary. The law is not random. It responds precisely, mathematically, to your mental attitude. When you pray correctly, meaning when you impress your subconscious with the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the law must respond. When you pray incorrectly, meaning when you affirm lack and doubt, the law responds to that instead. The law is working perfectly either way. The question is, are you working with the law or against it? Now that you've heard these stories, let me explain exactly what this ancient law is, how it operates, and why it works every single time without exception. These stories aren't miracles in the sense of violations of natural law. They're miracles in the sense of higher laws producing extraordinary results. And the most fundamental law, the one that governs all of your mental and spiritual life, is this. You have 2 minds, not one. You have a conscious mind, which is the mind that thinks, chooses, reasons, and decides. And you have a subconscious mind, which is the mind that accepts, executes, creates, and manifests. The ancient law is this. Whatever your conscious mind accepts as true, your subconscious mind accepts without question and proceeds to produce in your experience. Let me explain this more deeply because this is absolutely crucial to understand. Your conscious mind is like the captain of a ship. It gives orders. It makes decisions. It chooses which direction to go. Your subconscious mind is like the crew of that ship. It doesn't question the captain's orders. It doesn't evaluate whether an order is good or bad, wise or foolish, true or false. It simply obeys. If the captain says sail north, the crew sails north. If the captain says sail into a storm, the crew sails into a storm. The crew is completely loyal to the captain's commands. Your subconscious is completely loyal to your conscious mind's accepted beliefs. Now here's what most people don't realize. Your subconscious mind is incredibly powerful. It controls every function of your body. It beats your heart, digests your food, heals your wounds, fights disease, all without any conscious effort from you. This proves that your subconscious has intelligence and power far beyond what your conscious mind can comprehend. But here's the thing. That same power that runs your body is also creating your circumstances, your relationships, your financial situation, everything in your external life. How? Through the ancient law. Your subconscious takes whatever the conscious mind accepts as true and uses its infinite power and intelligence to manifest that belief into your external reality. This is what the Bible means when it says, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." In his heart means in his subconscious, in the feeling nature, in the place where real belief resides, not just intellectual ideas. Your outer life is always a perfect reflection of your inner consciousness. If you want to know what's in your subconscious, look at your life. Your life is the printout of your subconscious programming. If you don't like what you see in your life, you must change what's in your subconscious. And you do that through the conscious mind, by deliberately choosing new thoughts, new images, new feelings, and impressing them upon the subconscious with conviction and repetition. Every spiritual tradition teaches this truth in different language. The mystics call it inner versus outer. Religion calls it spirit versus flesh. Psychology calls it unconscious versus conscious. But they're all pointing to the same law. There is an invisible realm of consciousness where creation begins, and there is a visible realm of manifestation where creation appears. The invisible always precedes the visible. The inner always creates the outer. Consciousness is primary, manifestation is secondary. Change your consciousness, and your manifestation must change to match it. This is law. This is not belief or hope or theory. This is how reality works. Now let me tell you why most people's prayers fail, because once you understand this, everything becomes clear. Most people pray from a state of lack, which reinforces the lack. When you pray, "Please give me health," you're telling your subconscious, "I am sick." When you pray, "Please give me money," you're telling your subconscious, "I am poor." When you pray, "Please bring me love," you're telling your subconscious, "I am alone." The subconscious doesn't argue with you. It says, "Okay, you are sick. I'll maintain that reality. Okay, you are poor. I'll maintain that reality." It's completely loyal to your accepted belief. So your prayer, instead of creating what you want, actually reinforces what you don't want. This is why Jesus taught, when you pray, believe that you have already received, not will receive, have received, present tense, already done. You must pray from the answer, not from the problem. You must pray from a state of having, not from a state of wanting. You must pray from acceptance, not from need. This is completely different from how most people pray. Most people pray with intensity of desperation. I want you to pray with intensity of acceptance. Most people pray repeatedly because they doubt. I want you to pray once with conviction. Most people pray with words of faith but feelings of doubt. I want you to pray with feelings of certainty. The words don't matter. The feeling is everything. Let me share with you something that most people have never heard of. It's called the law of reversibility, and it's one of the most powerful secrets I can teach you. Here's the principle. If physical actions create feelings, then feelings can create physical actions and circumstances. Let me give you an example. If you smile, you start to feel happier. That's the normal direction. The physical action of smiling triggers the emotional response of happiness. But the law of reversibility says this works in both directions. If you feel happy, you'll find yourself smiling. The feeling creates the action. Now, apply this to your life. If being wealthy makes you feel secure, then by the law of reversibility, feeling secure can make you wealthy. Do you see the power in this? Most people think, "I'll feel successful when I become successful." But the law of reversibility says, feel successful now, and you'll become successful. Most people think, "I'll feel healthy when I get healthy," but the law says, feel healthy now, and you'll become healthy. Most people wait for their circumstances to change before they change their feelings. But the law demands that you change your feelings first, and then your circumstances must follow. This is why Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within you. The kingdom, meaning the desired state, the answered prayer, the fulfilled wish, exists first within you, in your consciousness, in your feeling state. And when it exists within, it must eventually manifest without. This completely changes how you approach life. You stop waiting for circumstances to change before you feel different. You start feeling different now, knowing that circumstances must change to match your feeling. You stop letting your current reality dictate your emotional state. You start letting your chosen emotional state dictate your coming reality. You stop being an effect, reacting to life. You start being a cause, creating life. You stop being a victim of circumstances. You start being a master of circumstances. This is what it means to be spiritual, not religious, not holy, but understanding and using the laws of consciousness to create your experience. Now let me teach you about the science of assumption. This is going to sound strange at first, but stay with me because it's absolutely true and absolutely powerful. An assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. Let me say that again. An assumption, even if it's not currently true, if you persist in believing it's true, will eventually become true in your experience. This is the scientific basis of faith. You assume the state you desire to be in, you persist in that assumption despite contrary evidence, and the ancient law hardens that assumption into objective reality. What you assume to be true becomes true for you, not because assumption magically changes external reality, but because assumption changes consciousness, and consciousness creates reality through the law. Let me give you an example. If you assume, I am confident, your subconscious accepts, I am confident. It then directs all your thoughts, feelings, and actions to align with confidence. It also activates the infinite intelligence that coordinates circumstances, bringing you opportunities that confirm confidence. You start noticing confident thoughts arising. You start making confident choices. You start attracting situations that mirror confidence back to you. Soon, what started as an assumption becomes your actual experience. You really are confident, not because you faked it, but because you impressed it on your subconscious, and the law manifested it. On the other hand, if you assume, I am unlucky, the same law works in reverse. Your subconscious accepts, I am unlucky. It directs your thoughts toward problems. It makes you notice negative things. It guides you toward self-sabotaging choices. It attracts unlucky circumstances. And soon what started as an assumption becomes your reality. You really are unlucky, not because you were born that way, but because you impressed that assumption on your subconscious and the law manifested it. Both people are using the exact same law, just with different assumptions. The law doesn't care which assumption you choose. It manifests whatever you consistently assume to be true. Here's the liberating truth. You're already using the power of assumption every single day. You just haven't been using it consciously. Most people use it unconsciously and negatively. They assume they can't, they assume it's hard, they assume they're not good enough. They assume life is a struggle. And the law dutifully produces circumstances that match those assumptions. When you learn to consciously choose your assumptions, you become master of the law instead of its slave. You deliberately assume the state you desire. You persist in that assumption with faith. And you watch as the law hardens that assumption into fact. This is why faith works when it works. Faith is simply an assumption held with conviction. When you have faith in something, you assume it's true before seeing evidence. You act as if it's true. You feel as if it's true. You think as if it's true. And if you maintain that assumption with feeling, the subconscious accepts it, and the law produces the evidence. This is what Scripture means when it says faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Faith, properly understood through this ancient law, is the actual creative substance that produces the thing you desire. It's not wishing, it's not hoping, it's assuming in consciousness, which creates in manifestation. Now let me tell you something that's going to change how you pray, how you think, and how you live. The secret is not in the thought, it's not in the words, it's not in the image. The secret is in the feeling. Your subconscious mind is impressed by feeling, not by logic. A child doesn't learn through reasoning. A child learns through feeling and repetition. Your subconscious is childlike in its nature. It responds to love, to joy, to certainty, to peace, to the emotional tone of your mental activity. When you add feeling to a thought, you give that thought creative power. When you pray with feeling, you impress your subconscious. When you pray without feeling, you're just reciting empty words that bounce off the surface of your mind without penetrating the creative depths. Let me be very clear about this. It's better to pray for 1 minute with genuine feeling than for 1 hour without feeling. It's better to imagine your desire once with complete acceptance than 1,000 times with doubt. The quality of your mental activity matters infinitely more than the quantity. 1 moment of real faith, meaning real feeling of the wish fulfilled, accomplishes more than years of wishful thinking. This is why some people pray once and get immediate results while others pray for years and get nothing. The difference is always the feeling. When you feel it real, your subconscious accepts it as real, and the law must make it real in your outer world. So how do you generate this feeling? This is crucial. You don't wait for the feeling to come. You create the feeling deliberately. How? By asking yourself a simple question. How would I feel if my prayer were already answered? How would I feel if my desire were already fulfilled? How would I feel right now if this were done? Then you imagine that feeling. You assume that feeling. You put it on like you would put on a coat. You enter into it, you live in it, and as you feel it, you impress it upon your subconscious, and the law goes to work to manifest it. Let's say you're praying for health. Don't pray, "Please make me healthy," because that affirms sickness. Instead, ask yourself, how would I feel if I were perfectly healthy right now? You'd feel energetic, you'd feel strong, you'd feel grateful, you'd feel free. So you generate those feelings now. You feel energetic now. You feel strong now. You feel grateful now. And as you feel these feelings, you're impressing health upon your subconscious. The law must respond. Your subconscious must direct your body toward health. Infinite intelligence must arrange circumstances that lead to health. This is not metaphor. This is the actual mechanism by which consciousness creates physical reality. I've watched people transform their lives with 5 minutes of feeling-filled prayer, and I've watched others waste years in feelingless repetition. The difference is always the feeling. When you feel it real, your subconscious accepts it as real, and the law must make it real in your outer world. This is not positive thinking. This is not affirmations. This is scientific prayer. This is conscious use of the law of mind. This is turning faith from hope into creative power. Now let me address something that confuses a lot of people. Why do miracles seem random? Why does prayer work sometimes and not others? I'm going to tell you exactly why, and once you understand this, miracles will stop being mysterious and become reliable. Miracles seem random because people don't understand the law behind them. They pray sometimes with real feeling, accidentally, without knowing they're doing it, and it works. They get excited, they think prayer works. But then they pray again, and this time they pray differently without realizing it. They pray without feeling, from need, with doubt, and it doesn't work. They get discouraged. They think prayer stopped working. But the truth is, the law never stopped working. They stopped working with the law correctly. The law is absolutely consistent. It responds the exact same way every single time. It responds to your feeling, to your conviction, to your mental acceptance. When you pray with feeling and acceptance, it works. When you pray with doubt and need, it doesn't. The law hasn't changed. Your method changed. This is incredibly liberating when you really get it. It means you're not at the mercy of a moody God who grants miracles to some and denies them to others. You're working with an impartial law that responds precisely to how you use it. Once you understand the law, miracles stop being mysterious and become reliable. You learn to produce results deliberately, not accidentally. You stop praying and hoping. You start knowing and receiving. You stop being a victim of random chance and become a conscious creator working with an ancient, reliable, scientific law of mind and spirit. Now let me clarify what faith really is, because most people misunderstand this completely. Faith is not blind belief. Faith is not hoping despite evidence. Faith is not trying to convince yourself of something you don't really believe. Faith, understood through the ancient law, is the psychological state of acceptance. It's the feeling of certainty. It's the mental attitude that says, "It is done," before seeing it done. Faith is the bridge between invisible consciousness and visible manifestation. In the Bible, faith means loyalty to unseen reality. When you have faith, you're loyal to your mental image rather than to your current circumstances. You look at lack, but you remain faithful to the idea of abundance. You look at sickness, but you remain faithful to the idea of health. You look at loneliness, but you remain faithful to the idea of love. This loyalty to the unseen is what allows the unseen to become seen, because what you're faithful to, what you remain mentally loyal to, is what your subconscious manifests into your experience. Let me make a distinction that's very important. Belief is intellectual. Belief is in your conscious mind. Belief says, I think this is true. Faith is experiential. Faith is in your subconscious mind. Faith says, I feel this is true. You can believe something with your head while having no faith in it with your heart. That belief will produce nothing because the subconscious only responds to what you feel, not what you think. This is why the Bible says faith without works is dead. The works of faith are not external actions. The works of faith are the inner work of feeling it real. When you do that inner work, when you feel your desire is already accomplished, when you accept it in consciousness with emotion and conviction, then the outer work happens automatically through the law. Your subconscious goes to work. Infinite intelligence arranges circumstances. Doors open. People appear. Opportunities arise. Not because you manipulated or forced anything, but because you impressed your subconscious and the law responded. So stop trying to generate more faith. You already have faith. You've just been directing it at the wrong things. You've had faith in your problems. You've had faith in your limitations. You've had faith in lack and fear and struggle. That faith has been working perfectly, producing more problems, more limitations, more lack. Now I'm asking you to redirect that same powerful faith toward what you desire instead of what you fear. Be faithful to your vision instead of faithful to your current reality. And as you do, the ancient law will receive your faith and return it to you as fact. Let me teach you something else that will free you from a lot of anxiety. The ancient law operates through infinite intelligence. You don't have to figure out how your desire will come to pass. You don't have to manipulate circumstances or force doors open or make things happen through your conscious effort. When you impress your desire upon your subconscious with feeling the infinite intelligence, which knows every person, every situation, every opportunity in the entire universe, goes to work, orchestrating circumstances in ways your limited conscious mind could never devise. Your conscious mind can only see what's directly in front of you. You can only see the people you know, the opportunities you're aware of, the paths you can imagine, but your subconscious mind is connected to infinite intelligence. Infinite intelligence sees all possibilities, all connections, all pathways. It knows people you've never met who can help you. It knows opportunities you don't even know exist. It knows solutions you could never consciously think of. When you give your subconscious a clear impression, the end result felt as real, it goes to work through infinite intelligence to manifest that end result. It arranges what we call coincidences. It brings the right people at the right time. It opens unexpected doors. It creates circumstances that lead naturally to your desired outcome. This is why Jesus taught, take no thought for tomorrow. Don't worry about the how. Don't carry the burden of figuring everything out. Your job is to define the end. Infinite intelligence's job is to provide the means. Your job is to feel the wish fulfilled. The law's job is to manifest it. Most people fail because they try to control the how. They pray for something, then immediately start worrying about how it will happen. This worry contradicts their prayer. It impresses doubt on the subconscious. It interferes with the law's perfect working. When you understand the law, you relax. You impress the end result with feeling. You let go of the how. You trust the law to produce it. You do what you're guided to do, but you don't carry the burden of making it all happen through your own limited conscious effort. I always tell people, pray for the end result, not for the means. Don't pray, help me get this specific job. Pray, I am happily employed in my perfect work, and let infinite intelligence show you which work that is. Don't pray, make this specific person love me. Pray, I am happily loved in my perfect relationship, and let infinite intelligence bring you the right person. Don't pray for specific means. Pray for the end. Give the what. Let the law provide the how. This removes so much stress and struggle from spiritual practice. You're not trying to force anything. You're not manipulating. You're not controlling. You're simply impressing your subconscious with the end result and trusting the ancient law to manifest it through infinite intelligence. Now let me give you specific practical ways to apply this law in your daily life starting today. These aren't theories to think about. These are techniques to use. Don't just think about them, do them. The law rewards action, and in this case, mental action. Give me 15 minutes a day for 30 days and I promise you'll see changes in your life that will astound you. Let me give you 5 specific practices. Start with one, or use all of them, but do them faithfully. The first practice I call the morning feeling exercise. This is incredibly powerful because you're working with your subconscious at its most receptive time. Here's what you do. Before you get out of bed each morning while you're still in that drowsy, sleepy state between sleep and waking, spend 5 minutes feeling your wish fulfilled. Not thinking about it, not visualizing it, feeling it. Ask yourself this question: if my prayer were answered, if my desire were already accomplished, how would I feel right now? Would I feel relief? Would I feel gratitude? Would I feel joy? Would I feel peace? Would I feel satisfaction? Identify that feeling, then generate it deliberately. Capture that feeling and saturate yourself in it. Bathe in that feeling for 5 minutes while you're still in bed. Why does this work so powerfully? Because in that drowsy state, your conscious mind is less active and your subconscious is wide open and receptive. Impressions made during this time go very deep. You're literally programming your subconscious at the most receptive moment of your entire day. Here are the exact steps. You wake up naturally or with an alarm, but you keep your eyes closed. Don't jump out of bed. Stay in that comfortable drowsy state. Then ask yourself, how would I feel if my desire were already fulfilled? Don't think about the desire. Don't plan how to get it. Just feel how you would feel if you had it. Generate that feeling. Relief, joy, satisfaction, gratitude, peace. Whatever feeling would be there if your wish were already granted. Then just bathe in that feeling for 5 minutes. Just feel it. Enjoy it. Saturate yourself in it. What should you avoid? Don't start planning how it will happen. Don't start worrying if it will happen. Don't start thinking about obstacles or problems. Just feel the feeling of it being done. The law takes care of everything else. After 5 minutes, then you can get up and start your day. But you've just impressed your subconscious with the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and that impression will work all day long beneath the surface of your conscious awareness, guiding you, attracting circumstances, manifesting your desire. Do this every single morning for 30 days and watch what happens in your life. The second practice is what I call the evening revision technique. This is something I learned from an ancient mystical tradition, and I've seen it produce remarkable results. Here's what you do. Every night before you sleep, review your day. But here's the key. Revise anything that wasn't ideal. If you had a difficult conversation, replay it in your mind as you wish it had gone. If you missed an opportunity, replay it with you seizing the opportunity. If you felt fear or anger or resentment, replay that moment with you feeling confidence or peace or forgiveness. You're not denying what happened. You're not lying to yourself. You're revising it in consciousness. Why does this work? Because your subconscious accepts your last waking impressions as instructions for your sleep state and for your next day. When you revise your day before sleep, you're training your subconscious to produce better experiences tomorrow. You're also releasing negative impressions before they harden into patterns. You're preventing today's problems from becoming tomorrow's habits. Here's exactly how to do it. Lie in bed, ready for sleep, comfortable, relaxed. Close your eyes. Start from this morning and review your day like a movie playing in your mind. Go through it chronologically from morning to evening. When you come to something that was negative or unpleasant, pause. Replay that scene the way you wish it had been. See it differently, feel it differently, revise it. For example, if someone was rude to you and you felt hurt, replay that scene with them being kind and you feeling happy. If you missed an opportunity, replay it with you taking the opportunity successfully. If you said something you regret, replay it with you saying the right thing. Go through your entire day this way, revising everything that needs revision, accepting everything that was good. Then, When you've reviewed and revised your whole day, let yourself fall asleep. Fall asleep with these revised positive impressions in your mind. Your subconscious will accept these revisions as real, and tomorrow it will start producing experiences that match your revisions instead of your old patterns. I promise you, do this faithfully for 30 days and your life will change. You'll start noticing people treating you differently. You'll find yourself responding differently to situations. Problems will start resolving. Opportunities will start appearing. Why? Because you're no longer carrying negative impressions into your subconscious night after night. You're revising them into positive patterns, and the law must express those new patterns in your life. This is one of the most powerful techniques I can teach you. Use it. The third practice is what I call the scientific prayer treatment. This is direct, conscious communication with your subconscious mind. This isn't begging God. This is scientific use of the law. You're going to speak to your subconscious with authority, with conviction, with the certainty that it must accept and execute your instructions. Do this once or twice a day. More than that isn't necessary and can actually indicate doubt. Here's the formula. First, relax your body and quiet your mind. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, let go of tension. This should take about 1 minute. You're preparing the soil to receive the seed. Second, state your desire in present tense, not future tense. Not I will be or I want to be. Present tense. I am. I have. I experience. For example, I am perfectly healthy. I have abundant prosperity. I am living in my ideal home. I experience perfect love in my relationship. State it clearly, simply, in present tense as if it's already true. This should take about 30 seconds. Third, justify your claim with spiritual reason. Tell your subconscious why your statement is true. Not from external evidence, because there is no external evidence yet. From spiritual truth. Because God is my source, and there is no lack in God. Because infinite intelligence within me knows only wholeness and perfection. Because the creative power of the universe is working for my good. Give your subconscious a reason to accept your claim. This takes about 1 minute. Fourth, and this is the most important part, feel the reality of your statement. Close your eyes and actually feel it done. Don't just say the words, feel them. Feel healthy if you're claiming health. Feel prosperous if you're claiming prosperity. Feel loved if you're claiming love. Feel it as real right now. Saturate yourself in the feeling. This is where the impression happens. This is what activates the law. Spend about 2 minutes in this feeling state. Fifth and finally, give thanks. Thank you, Father, for this is done. Thank you, God, for perfect health. Thank you for abundant supply. Thank you that this prayer is already answered. Give thanks as if you've received, because in consciousness you have received. This takes about 30 seconds. Let me give you a complete example for health. You sit quietly, close your eyes, relax for 1 minute. Then you say with conviction, I am now perfectly healthy and strong. Every cell in my body is functioning perfectly. Say it like you mean it. Then justify it. Because the infinite healing presence within me is flowing through every part of my being. The same power that created my body is now restoring it to perfect health. There is no disease in spirit, and I am spirit. Then feel it. Feel energy. Feel vitality. Feel wellness in your body right now. See yourself doing things a healthy person does. Feel the feelings a healthy person feels. Saturate yourself in health for 2 full minutes. Then give thanks. Thank you, Father, for perfect health. This is done. Amen. The key is conviction. Don't say it like a wish. Say it like a statement of fact. Don't say it with doubt. Say it with authority. You're not asking. You're claiming. You're not hoping. You're accepting. Do this once in the morning and once at night, or just once a day if that's all you can do. But do it with complete conviction. And here's something crucial. After you do this prayer treatment, let it go. Don't keep praying the same prayer 10 times a day. That demonstrates doubt. If you really believed it was done, you wouldn't need to keep praying about it. Pray once with faith, then trust. Let the law work. The fourth practice is the gratitude technique. This is simpler but just as powerful. Throughout your day, Practice thanking God for things you don't yet see in your outer world. Thank God for your perfect health while you're still experiencing illness. Thank God for your prosperity while you're still struggling financially. Thank God for your perfect relationship while you're still alone. This sounds crazy, but it's actually scientific. Why does this work? Because gratitude is the feeling of having received. When you give thanks for something, you tell your subconscious, I have this. Your subconscious accepts it without argument. It doesn't say, no, you don't. It says, okay, you have this, and it proceeds to manifest it. Gratitude also bypasses doubt. You can't be grateful for something and doubtful of it at the same time. The two feelings contradict each other. When you feel genuine gratitude for your answered prayer, even before you see evidence, you're in the pure state of acceptance that activates the law. Here's how to practice this. 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, and evening, say thank you for, and then state your desire in present tense. Thank you for my perfect health. Thank you for my abundant prosperity. Thank you for my loving relationship. Thank you for my fulfilling work. Say it. Feel it. Mean it. Don't just recite empty words. Actually feel grateful. Feel it in your heart. Feel the warmth of gratitude spreading through you. Do this throughout your day. When you're driving, thank you for my perfect health. When you're working, thank you for abundant prosperity. When you're going to sleep, thank you that all my prayers are answered. Make gratitude your habitual mental state, and watch as your subconscious responds to that gratitude by manifesting more and more things to be grateful for. The law must respond to gratitude because gratitude is acceptance, and acceptance is faith, and faith impresses the subconscious, and the subconscious manifests into reality. It's a perfect chain of causation. The 5th and final practice is what I call the mental movie method. This is especially powerful to do right before sleep. Once a day, usually in bed before you fall asleep, create a short mental movie of your desire fulfilled. See yourself living in the end result. Make it sensory. See, hear, feel, touch, smell. Make it first person. See it through your own eyes as if you're actually experiencing it, not watching yourself from the outside. And most importantly, make it imply the wish fulfilled. Don't show yourself getting the thing. Show yourself having the thing. Let me explain that last point because it's crucial. If you want financial freedom, don't imagine money coming to you. That's still affirming you don't have it. Instead, imagine yourself doing things that imply you already have financial freedom. See yourself casually paying bills without any concern. See yourself booking a trip without checking your bank balance. See yourself helping someone financially because you have plenty to give. These scenes imply that financial freedom is already your reality. If you want health, don't imagine yourself getting healed. Imagine yourself doing things a healthy person does. See yourself running with energy. See yourself eating with appetite. See yourself waking up feeling great. These scenes imply health is already established. Here are the exact steps for this practice. First, decide on one specific scene that implies your wish fulfilled. Just one scene. Keep it simple. Make it short, maybe 15 to 30 seconds long. Second, make it sensory and real in your imagination. Don't just see it. Hear it. Feel it. Touch it. The more real you make it, the deeper the impression on your subconscious. Third, play this scene once or twice in your mind. Don't loop it endlessly. Once or twice with feeling is more powerful than 100 times with distraction. Fourth, add the feeling. This is the most important part. How does it feel to be experiencing this scene? Feel that feeling. Feel the joy, the relief, the satisfaction, the peace. Fifth, fall asleep in that feeling. Let that be the last impression in your consciousness before you drift off to sleep. Your subconscious thinks in pictures and feelings, not in words. When you give it a vivid scene with feeling, you give it clear instructions. The law then works to manifest that scene into your 3-dimensional reality. Do this every night. Pick one scene that implies your wish fulfilled. Play it with sensory vividness and emotional feeling. Fall asleep in that feeling. Within days, you'll start noticing changes. Within weeks, you'll see tangible results. Within months, the scene you've been imagining will have become your actual lived experience. I've seen this happen thousands of times. It will happen for you when you do it faithfully. Now let me give you some final guidance on these practices. Choose one or two of them and do them daily. Don't try to do all 5 every day unless you really want to. Consistency is more important than intensity. 5 minutes every single day for 30 days beats doing an hour once and then forgetting about it. The law responds to steady, faithful impressions, not to sporadic bursts of effort. Start tonight with the evening revision. Start tomorrow morning with the morning feeling exercise. Start right now by doing the scientific prayer treatment. Just start. Don't wait for the perfect time. Don't wait until you understand everything completely. Start practicing now, and understanding will come through practice. And remember this, you're not trying to make something happen through your mental effort. You're not trying to force the universe to give you what you want. You're simply impressing your subconscious mind with the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and you're trusting the ancient law to manifest that impression into your experience. You're planting seeds. The law produces the harvest. You're giving the end result. Infinite intelligence provides the means. You're doing your part, which is inner work. The law does its part, which is outer manifestation. Trust the process. Be patient with the process. Be faithful to the process. The law never fails. My dear friend, we've covered so much today. Let me bring it all together for you in a way you'll never forget. There is an ancient law operating in your life right now, this very moment. The law is this. Whatever you impress upon your subconscious mind with feeling and conviction, your subconscious mind accepts as true and proceeds to manifest into your experience. This law doesn't care about your past. It doesn't care about your mistakes. It doesn't care whether you're worthy or deserving. It responds only to your present consciousness. It responds to what you accept as true right now. It responds to what you feel as real right now. And it responds perfectly, every single time, without exception. Faith becomes miracle working when you direct it through this law. How do you do that? By assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled. By praying from the answer, not from the problem. By thanking God for what you desire as though you already have it. By remaining faithful to your mental image rather than to your current circumstances. By feeling it done instead of hoping it will be done. The stories I shared with you today, the sailor in the storm, the mother whose son was healed, the businessman who rebuilt his life, the people who learned to pray correctly, these aren't accidents. These aren't exceptions. These are demonstrations of people who learned to work with this law consciously, deliberately, scientifically, and what worked for them will work for you when you apply these principles faithfully. The law is no respecter of persons. It works for everyone who uses it correctly. It worked for me when I was young and struggling. It's worked for thousands of people I've counseled over 4 decades, and it will work for you. Now I want to be honest with you about something. Understanding this teaching today is just the beginning. The real work, the real transformation, happens in daily practice. You will have days when you doubt. You will have days when your circumstances seem to contradict everything you've claimed in your prayers. You will have days when it feels easier to worry than to have faith. In those moments, and you will have those moments, remember this. The law is absolutely reliable. If you're not seeing results, it's not because the law isn't working. It's because you're not applying the principle correctly. Go back to the feeling. Go back to the assumption. Go back to living from the end instead of living from the beginning. Go back to praying from acceptance instead of praying from need. Go back to being faithful to your vision instead of being faithful to your current reality. The law will never fail you. It cannot fail you. It's not a belief system that might or might not be true. It's an actual law, like the law of gravity, like the law of mathematics. It works the same way every single time, but you must work with it correctly. You must remain faithful to the process, even when you see no evidence yet. You must trust that the seed is growing beneath the soil, even though you can't see it yet. You have everything you need right now to transform your life. You don't need more education, you don't need more money, you don't need more time, you don't need more permission from anyone. You need only to understand that your consciousness creates your reality, and you have complete control over your consciousness. Nobody can control your thoughts but you. Nobody can control your feelings but you. Nobody can control your mental images but you. You are the master of your own inner world. And through the ancient law, when you master your inner world, you automatically master your outer world. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are not at the mercy of fate or luck or other people's decisions or random chance. You are the creator of your experience. You are a spiritual being living in a mental and spiritual universe that responds to consciousness. The power that created the entire universe, the intelligence that makes your heart beat and your cells divide and the planets orbit, that same power is within you right now. It's your subconscious mind. It's connected to infinite intelligence, and it will do for you whatever you impress upon it with conviction and feeling. Use that power wisely. Use that power deliberately. Use that power through the ancient law I've taught you today. Before we finish, I want you to do something with me. I want you to claim your good right now. If you can, say this out loud with me. If you can't speak out loud, say it in your mind, but say it with feeling, with conviction, like you mean it. Are you ready? Say this with me. The infinite intelligence within me knows the way of perfect manifestation. I now impress upon my subconscious mind the reality of my desire fulfilled. I feel it done. I accept it now. I claim it now. The ancient law is working for me at this very moment, bringing my good to me in ways better than I can imagine. Doors are opening. Opportunities are appearing. The right people are coming into my life. Everything is working together for my highest good. I am grateful. I am expectant. I am at peace. I know that what I have accepted in consciousness must manifest in my experience, and so it is. Amen. Feel that. Feel the truth of those words. You've just impressed your subconscious with a powerful claim. The law is already responding, already working, already manifesting. Trust it. Now, if this message has resonated with you, if you felt something shift in your understanding today, if you recognize truth when you hear it, I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel. I create these teachings to help people just like you discover the power that's already within you. I want to help you understand the laws of mind and spirit so you can create the life you truly desire. Click that subscribe button right now so you don't miss future lessons. I have so much more to share with you. And if you found real value here today, if something I said clicked for you, if you learned something that's going to change how you pray or think or live, do me a favor. Click the like button. It seems like a small thing, but it helps this message reach other people who need to hear it. There are people right now struggling with unanswered prayers, wondering why their faith doesn't seem to work, feeling hopeless and discouraged. Your click might be what puts this teaching in front of them. You might be part of their miracle by helping them find this law. And most importantly, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment below right now. Tell me, what are you going to apply first? Which practice resonated with you most? What insight struck you deepest? Or if you've already experienced this law working in your life, share your story. Your story will encourage others who are just beginning this journey. I read every single comment, and your words matter. Your experiences matter. Your transformation matters. When you share what's working for you, you help others believe it will work for them too. So take a moment right now and leave a comment. Tell me what you're claiming. Tell me what you're going to practice. Tell me how this teaching has helped you. I want to know. Go now, my friend, with the understanding that you are not helpless. You are not hopeless. You are not at the mercy of random chance or cruel fate or other people's decisions. You are a spiritual being with creative power. You are working with an ancient law that responds to consciousness. You have within you, right now, the same power that created the universe. And that power will do for you whatever you impress upon it with faith and feeling. Use the ancient law wisely. Practice the techniques faithfully. Remain loyal to your vision. Be patient with the process. Trust the law. And watch, just watch, as your faith transforms from wishful thinking into creative power that produces actual miracles in your life. Your health can be restored. Your finances can be transformed. Your relationships can be healed. Your purpose can be revealed. Your dreams can be manifested. Not because you're special, but because the law is available to everyone. Not because you deserve it more than others, but because the law doesn't judge worthiness. It simply responds to consciousness. And now you know how to direct your consciousness. Now you know how to impress your subconscious. Now you know how to work with the ancient law instead of against it. So go forward from this moment with confidence, with faith, with certainty. Know that your good is already established in the invisible realm of consciousness. Know that the law is already working to manifest it into the visible realm of experience. Know that every prayer you pray with real feeling is already answered. In the moment you pray it, the rest is just time for the law to complete its perfect work. Be at peace. Be grateful. Be expectant. Your miracle is on its way. God bless you, my dear friend. Until we meet again, remember the kingdom of heaven is within you. The power is within you. The law is within you. Use it, trust it, and watch your life transform. Amen.